that thread in the air is okay, come on. And so as you can see on the motor from the RM250, the crank gear bolt's been popped out and been running on the inside of the clutch basket, but it should be alright. I'll give a bit of a file and make sure there's no more metal shavings that come off it, and just tip most of the excess oil from the oil change, and as you can see all the metal shavings obviously from the clutch basket. So I just got the clutch off, and you check out all the metal shavings and stuff at the bottom of the sump. It's just, yeah, fully caked like that. It's just all metal shavings from where that bolt's been running around on that clutch basket. So I'll check all the gears, but I think everything should be alright. It's pretty nasty though. It's definitely the worst that I've seen. Yeah, all the gears and stuff check out to be fine. The shaft here is alright, but the inside threads are, I don't know if you can see that, they're all butchered, so, but that's actually the crank. So like I said, I've got a new crank sitting inside for it, so the threads don't actually matter because it's getting replaced. But yeah, all these don't look bad, they're not missing teeth or anything, so it's a bonus. So it should just be a matter of cleaning everything up. Right, so I've just got the cylinder off. Check out the piston. Everything looks in pretty good shape, really. I think it's a Wiseco piston, so Wiseco pistons are all good. I haven't heard too good things about the Wiseco cranks, but the bore looks pretty decent. I think it's had a bit of a sleeve at some stage. As you can see there's no scores or scratches or anything in it, so just give it a bit of a hone. And on top of the crank there, it's all like milky, so that tells me that there was coolant mixing with the petrol and oil, and it could have possibly had a leaky crank seal, because there's quite a bit of fluid in there, although that could just be most of it coolant. But the crank is actually still really tight. They usually have a little bit side to side. This hasn't got barely any, but absolutely no up and down play. Piston's all good. So yeah, I'll just give that cylinder a light hone, and yeah, I've got the honer up there because I think it's a steel sleeve that I've put in it. Before I split the cases, I just tend to take the piston off. So there's two circlips on each side of the piston here, one on there and one on the other side, and then there's the pin that runs through the middle, and then the needle bearing on the end of the crank. So you just need to take one of this. So I'll take this circlip out, and then we'll be able to push the pin through that way. So, and then the piston will just pop off, and then yeah, the new piston comes with the new needle bearing and pin and circlips, so we can just chuck all that other stuff away, and then we'll get to splitting the cases. So that's what the piston circlips look like. So that just came out of there, and then we should just be able to come from the other side if it'll let us. Might need a little bit of encouragement, but I'll just put you down. So that pin's just started to come out now. I just had this 10mm T handle through the side of the piston, and then just pushing on that pin there, and then just giving it a tap with the hammer. And that pin just pops out, and then just pull the T handle out, and then your piston should just lift off, just like that. Yeah, all that there can just be chucked out because, like I said, we've got new stuff for all that, so yeah, it can just be all chucked. So now we'll just spin the motor around in the frame. So you just have to undo all these 8mm bolts, and yeah, they're just holding the two cases together, so the two halves. You can see the line there, so they'll split apart that way, but yeah, they're under quite a bit of pressure, so pretty much that mounts on there sort of like that. I'll show you in depth how to do it in a minute, but and then yeah, that bolt pushes on the end of the crank here and holding on to the case, so it just pushes the crank and the outside case away and pulls the left side case towards it. So I'll show you how that works in a second. Right, so I've just got the engine off the stand, and I like to use just two wood blocks just on the bottom side of the engine case there, and that just keeps the transmission shaft off the ground and the engine all rocking all over the place. So crankcase splitter, that just goes on top like that. Just mount the flywheel cover bolt, so that just goes over the top like that, and then you get these, which are supplied in the splitter when you buy it, and they just wind down, and you want it to just stop when you've got a decent amount of thread through the case, and make sure your case is sitting flush with the crankcase splitter there, like that. And then you're just going to want to wind this down, and that is just pressing up against the crank like so. Alright, so I'm going to use a ratchet with a 17mm socket on the end, and basically this just goes on top of the crankcase splitter there. It might take a bit of force, and then it'll just pop like that. That's alright, nothing's breaking or anything. And as you can see, it is starting to split, like so. So you just want to make sure it's coming up even, so you've got this same amount of space down there as you do on this side, because you don't want it to like come up uneven and end up doing damage to the cases or stress cracking it or anything. So it was a bit of a struggle, but I think the transmission output shaft was stuck on that bearing there, but got it out. So yeah, as you can see, it's pretty much split. So I just need to take that crankcase splitter off and lift the top case off, and we'll check out the transmission and how the crank actually is. Because I brought this bike, it was still running, but it was knocking. So it was obviously because of that bolt. Well, it wasn't knocking, but yeah, it sounded like something was bouncing around in there, so it was that bolt. So, but hopefully everything's alright. Oh yeah. Look at all that. So those metal shavings are absolutely everywhere. All through the transmission, all through the clutch, as you saw. Crank still spins. Main bearings still feel good. Yeah, that output shaft bearing is a bit sticky, but no doubt that's from all the metal shavings in there. This one's actually sealed, but it's got metal shavings all on top. So yeah, I'll pull the transmission and crank out, and then I'll give you guys an update. So to get the crank out off the other side of the case, you just pretty much do the same thing. Put the crankcase splitter into the bolts, and the bolt just pushes on the end of the crank here, and you'll see a bit of view, and then when you just tighten the bolt down, it'll push it that way and pop the crank out of the bearings. So I'll set you up so you guys can actually see that. Alright, so just using the same socket. Don't know how well you can actually see that. See how it's just pushing it out. And then it should just pull out just like that. Yeah, the crank still looks good. There's no play. It's still pretty tight. Once again, more metal shavings. Hopefully the bearings are good. If not, I'll just get a new transmission kit and just put new bearings in while it's apart. Main bearings are still good though. Obviously there was no metal shavings in there. Bearings are alright, they still spin, they're just a bit difficult. Yeah, so. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed part 2 of the RM250 build. Got the workshop all cleaned up. So yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video.